Good day, life science students. Welcome to video lecture episode 12. Today we're going to start in section 2 of chapter 25, the non-living environment. Section 2 is titled Cycles in Nature. I'm going to quickly read a little section from a Dr. Seuss book and then ask a question. This is on slide 60, by the way, just in case you're curious. When beetles fight these battles in a bottle with their paddles and the bottles on a poodle and the poodles eating noodles, they call this a muddle puddle tweedle poodle beetle noodle bottle paddle battle. And when Tweedle beetles battle with paddles in a puddle, they call it a Tweedle beetle puddle paddle battle. Now, looking at these images on the slide 60 there, which word would best describe the battling beetles? Would it be A, mutualistic, B, predator versus prey, C, competitors, or D, parasitic? If you want to go ahead and leave an answer, you can put that in the comments below. All right. Now let's move into the main ideas for section 2. One of those main ideas is we're going to explain the importance of the water cycle. Another one is we're going to diagram the carbon cycle. And the third one is we're going to recognize the role of nitrogen on Earth. So let's talk about cycles of matter. Let's talk about 3 points in particular. 1, energy in an ecosystem is replenished by the sun. 2, matter in an ecosystem has to be recycled. And 3, different organisms use and cycle a fixed amount of water, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and other materials required for life on Earth. Slide 63, I just have a picture of a robot satellite that was actually launched in July of 2018 that was being sent to the sun, and this was being sent by NASA. Slides 64 and 65, I have pictures of the biosphere with some information. This, by the way, is in Tucson, so if you ever get a chance to go down there, especially after this pandemic is over, I would highly recommend checking this out. It's really cool. Now let's move into slide 66, where we're going to start talking about the water cycle. In particular, we're going to talk about evaporation. So the water cycle is a model that describes how water moves from the surface of the Earth to the atmosphere and back to the surface again. Now, what is evaporation? Well, evaporation is when liquid water changes into a water vapor which enters the atmosphere. Okay. Water, remember, evaporates from the surface of lakes, streams, puddles, and oceans. Now, for example, if you hung out a towel to dry, it would become dry, and that towel has become dry because the water is evaporated back into the air. It's just changed form. Animals also release water vapor in the air when they exhale, and we can easily see this during the time when it's cold in the winter. Water also returns to the earth via animal waste, in other words, when they go to the bathroom. Now let's talk about another concept in connection with the water cycle, and that's condensation. Water vapor that is released into the atmosphere eventually comes in contact with colder air. As the temperature drops, the vapor becomes liquid again. So condensation is defined as the process of changing a gas into a liquid. The first droplets form clouds. When they become heavy, they form precipitation that can be rain, hail, snow, or sleet. Now let's talk about the water that is used, okay, how water is used. The amount of water used by people can influence how much water actually returns back to the atmosphere. People use millions of gallons per day of water for personal use, businesses, mining, farming, and electricity production. If you look on slide 68, I have a kind of a breakdown. That's an old image, but just to kind of give you just an idea. Now let's move into the nitrogen cycle, all right? The nitrogen cycle is the transfer of nitrogen from the atmosphere to the soil, to living organisms, and back to the atmosphere. Remember, nitrogen makes up the large majority of air. Most organisms, and that includes us as humans, cannot use the free gaseous form of nitrogen found in the air. Animals obtain nitrogen by eating other organisms. Nitrogen is essential for living organisms to make amino acids, proteins. Nitrogen is essential to DNA, formed by nitrogenous base pairs such as A, T, C, and G. By the way, the A is adenine, then we have T, thymine, C, cytosine, and then G, guanine. All right. Now, looking on slide 70, I have some images of nitrogen, and it's just its connection to the way we use it, but also its place on the periodic table. And then we're going to close off our lecture today with an interesting little thing on slide 71. The site was chosen, okay, a site. There's this site here, actually here in Arizona. So in the desert climate of Scottsdale, Arizona, rests 147 brains and bodies that are all frozen in liquid nitrogen with the goal of being revived one day. I'd like to say that I was making this up, but it's not. This is not science fiction. To some, it might not even be science, yet thousands of people around the world have put their trust, lives, and fortunes into the promise of what's called cryonics, the practice of preserving a body with antifreeze shortly after death in hopes of future medicine might be able to bring the deceased back. So I just thought I'd share that with you because this is right here in Arizona, and it's one way that we're using nitrogen, and it's called cryogenics, where they're actually storing these people's bodies and their brains and such. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I do hope this lecture has been helpful. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the comments below. Reach out to me via email or chat messages. Have a nice day, and once again, I hope this has been helpful. Take care. Goodbye.